I saw a handmade sign plastered onto a newspaper box outside the post office, and it read, "Selfish rich people suck." My first thought on reading it was, well, that's a little redundant, isn't it? Saying that rich people are selfish? Because we think that all rich people are selfish. That's why they're rich. They have a lot of money and no intention of sharing it. Poor people favor sharing the wealth, not so much because they are unselfish, more because they are poor. When you're poor, sharing makes sense. The State of the Union address was the other night. I didn't pay any attention to it. I could give a State of the Union address. We are in terrible trouble, and it doesn't really matter who's to blame. We're all to blame. We've been living completely irresponsibly, and it can't continue. The only question is, what are we going to do about it? Continue to ignore it, or try to do something about it? Change our ways. In the real State of the Union address, that question never came up. The President referred to the tremendous disparity in wealth in our society, his version of selfish rich people suck, and he proposed several relief measures, such as raising the minimum wage level, the ultimate scattering of breadcrumbs. I heard Larry David talk once, on the internet of course, and he was comparing rich and poor, saying that he'd been both. Once he was poor, now he was rich, and that meant he was a rich prick, because that's what all rich people were. They're rich pricks, who never give a moment's thought to the poor bastards. That's what they were. And he said, having been both, that he'd rather be a rich prick than a poor bastard. If being rich meant he had to be a prick, well, you know what? He could live with that. And there's a lot of truth to that, which is why the people he was talking to laughed. A lot of rich people are pricks, literally and metaphorically. That's how they get their money, by being a prick. The image I get is both one of potency, having a prick, and mean-spirited nature, being a prick, which takes us back to selfish rich people suck. Selfish pricks, like Ebenezer Scrooge. There's a rich prick. Now, an unselfish rich person, if there were such a thing, like Ebenezer Scrooge after his revelation, they would not be a prick. The previous president, he was a rich man and his friends were rich. Everyone believed that his policies favored the wealthy. He was a rich prick. The current president is wealthy, but people don't think of him as being a prick. He wants to address the economic disparity. He wants to help the poor. He himself is rich. He's set. His daughters attend private schools. He plays a lot of golf, goes on frequent vacations. He lives a life of luxury, but he's always talking about that economic disparity and trying to do something about it, always scattering breadcrumbs. People who are poor don't think he's a prick, like the previous president. He's someone who can't convince the rich pricks to part with their money. They won't listen to him. As for the poor bastards themselves, many of them are literally bastards. That is, not born into a family, into what is called wedlock, which is one hell of an expression if you think about it for 2 seconds. Wedlock. Two people legally shackled together, not exactly conjuring up a state of marital bliss. But for many poor people, they don't have 2 parents. They are bastards, and poor bastards at that. As the sign strongly suggests, there is more than just a deep divide between these 2 factions, as there has always been. There is a profound enmity. That's pure hatred, a complete lack of trust, no sense of respect, not so much as a shred of compassion or understanding. In fact, the 2 have nothing in common except that they deplore one another. That's what they share, and that's all they share. Each thinks the other is completely wrong and totally to blame for the inequality, that gulf, and it won't take much to bring them to violent confrontation, which will be a bitter, brutal, all-out war, the rich pricks against the poor bastards. The rich pricks have the resources, the poor bastards have the numbers. Who wins, the pricks or the bastards? It doesn't matter. Either way, the society will be destroyed.